In today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into the December 2023 housing market update for Cedar City, Utah and the greater St. George area in Utah. Now, I say December 2023 because it is the month of December. However, this is going to give us data all the way up through November 30th. So that would be yesterday as of today's recording. Now, to give you kind of an idea of how this is going to play out, we're going to take a look at the Cedar City housing market update. We're going to take a look at the greater St. George area housing market. Then we're going to answer three of the main questions people want to know about the housing market right now, as well as whether it's a good time to sell or whether it's a good time for you to buy right now. I did put those chapters down below in the description, so if something in here doesn't interest you, you can jump to that and make it a little bit easier on you. However, I would recommend taking a look at both of them since St. George, Utah is only about a 45-minute drive south of Cedar City, Utah. It's just a good idea of how the two markets compare. But again, if you're not interested in one or the other, just go ahead and use those chapters to jump to where you want to be. All right, my name is Elizabeth Prisbrey. I'm with Stratum Real Estate Group. If you are looking to buy, sell, or invest here in Southern Utah, I would love it if you would reach out to me. You can find my contact information down below in the description. I promise you I will respond. All right, as I said, we're going to check out Cedar City, Utah's housing market update first, then we will jump into St. George. This is going to give you the median sales price in November for the last 5 or 6 years, starting out at 2018 and ending at 2023. You can see based on the graph here, we had an incredible increase or appreciation in our median home sales price here in the month of November for Cedar City, Utah. Last year, it looked like it sat right about the same as 2021. Remember, interest rates did start going up last year around the end of the first quarter, but by fall, they were really pretty high and the housing market was sitting a little bit stagnant. Now, for this November 2023, you can see a slight dip here. And if you want to see that in percentage wise, you can see we had a little depreciation from 2017 to 2018. Then we had an increase of about 35% in 2019 from 2018 to 2019. Then we had an increase of about 14 to 15% in 2020 and appreciation up to about 30% in 2021. Now, in 2022, where I said they kind of stayed the same, you can see it here in our median sales price here. We really didn't see anything. You can see a slight line of blue there, a little sliver, so it dipped down just a little bit. But here in 2023, we dipped down about 2 to 3% from last year in November with our median home sales price. So right now we're sitting just above $350,000. It's right around $365,000 for our median sales price here in Cedar City, Utah. So you can see this is really the first appreciation that we have seen in the month of November since 2018. But if we look at this, our median sales price is still much higher than it was in 2020, 2019, and 2018. Now, if we take a look at this over the past 12 months, and then I did put November 2022 in there so that you can see how it compares because we already know it dipped a little bit. And my mouse, I probably should have changed the color on it because it is also blue. But we know that it dipped a little bit in November 2023. This is kind of what our median sales price has done throughout the year. It can't really decide where it wants to be. We did go down in December last year, and then we went slightly up in January. We went up quite a bit in February, then back down in March, but still above December and January. Then we shot back up in April above February's median sales price, then back down in May, but again, still above March. And then we kind of stayed the same in June, slightly down a little bit, then back up in July, then down in August, up a little bit in September. In October, we had our highest median sales price for the last year, and then we just dipped down for November. Now, clearly our housing market can't really decide what it wants to do, but we are not seeing huge decreases. When we look at it from a year perspective, we're really kind of sitting around those mid 300,000s, and it is fluctuating a little bit each month, but that's because it is a median sales price, meaning half of the homes on the market are going for less than that and half of the homes on the market are going for more than that. So it really just depends on where those closings are, but it kind of gives you a good idea that we're really just kind of holding steady in the mid 300,000s. Now, as far as our absorption rate for Cedar City, Utah, that's going to be our month's inventory, or how many months of supply we have on the market. That means that if nothing were to change today, only the active homes were on the market, it would take us about this many months for all of those homes to be absorbed by the market. Now, if we take a look at 2018, 2019, of course, before our whole pandemic and things went a little crazy, we were above the 3-month supply in Cedar City, about 3.5 months supply in 2019. Then we dipped way down in 2020 and 2021. We had barely above a month supply there. And then in 2022, we started going back up to that 3-month supply. We're right around 3-month supply now in 2023. This is important because a balanced housing market is typically about 6 months supply, meaning both the sellers and the buyers have negotiating powers. When it is less than a 6-month supply, it typically leans towards the seller's side. If it's more than a 6-month supply, it typically leans towards the buyer's side, meaning the buyers have more negotiating power. So with that being said, Cedar City is a small community. We only have about 40,000 people in population, give or take. It's right around there in 2023. But what I am seeing as an agent here is things are pretty comparable. If the home is priced right for the location and the condition, then the seller does have negotiating powers. However, if that home is overpriced and it's been sitting on the market, then the buyer has negotiating powers. So really in Cedar City, this is pretty balanced for our market here. Now, as far as our days on market, this is where our median days on market is. So half of the homes are selling faster, half of the homes are taking longer than this. In 2018, we were right around 18 days on market. 2019, we're about 35 days on market. Look at 2020. We're about 9 days on market, and 2021 about 15 days on market. Homes were not sitting on the market very long, but again, that's going to be comparable to our month's inventory. Remember, we're sitting at just over a month of inventory on those 2 months. So of course, the days on market is going to be lower. Now, 2022, we're back up around 36 days on market, but this year in 2023, our homes are actually sitting on a few days less than they were in 2022. Now, remember, we did see a little bit of dip in the median sales price here, but as far as days on market, it's actually less than 2019 and 2020. Now, I went ahead and put all of the current data on this slide so that we can compare them together. Your new listings are going to be the new homes that came onto the market in the month of November. In 2023, we had the exact same number of listings come on the market as we did in 2022. Now, this is important here because look, this is less than any of the other years. Not by much, but it is less. Now, if we take a look at it compared to active listings, 2018, 2019, we're getting up around 240 active listings in Cedar City. Then this drops way down again, 2020, 2021, where our month's inventory was low, our days on the market was low. We're sitting right around 100 or just over 100 active listings on the market. That is not enough to sustain the buyers that were out there, which is why we saw those huge pricing increases on our median sales price. 2022, we had more active listings on the market. Remember, those interest rates jumped up. We're up closer to where we were in 2018, 2019, not quite as many, but now look, 2023, our active listings, they're still much higher than they were in 2021, but they're not quite as high as they were in 2022, 2019, and 2018. Again, this is going to come into play with our median sales price or how our market is looking. Stick around till the end because we are going to answer those 3 questions and we'll tie this all together. Now, pending listings, these are the homes that are in contract to close in the month of November. That means that a buyer and a seller have agreed on a price. They are in escrow, but they have not quite finalized that sale yet. 2022 is really the only year we saw a dip in pendings in November, but 2023 is looking really pretty comparable to 2018, 2019, showing us that our housing market is really pretty stable and comparable to what it was before these outlier years here in 2020 and 2021. Now, as far as sold listings, this is where we start seeing it go down. So sold listings here in Cedar City are right around 60 to 70 homes sold within the month. In November 2023, we're actually in the 40s. We're right around 48 homes sold in November. Now, we do have a lot of pendings coming up, so these could be closing in December, but it is showing that less homes actually turned over in the month of November and closed. So it will be interesting to see see how this plays out in December and if the sold closings actually go back up. All right, so that's a brief overview of Cedar City and what's going on here. Now we're going to jump over to St. George's housing market. We'll do a run through with that, and then we'll answer those 3 questions for you. For the median sales price to finish out the month of November in the greater St. George area, we're sitting right around the mid 500,000s. It's about $545,000. This has increasingly gone up year over year for the month of November in the greater St. George area. We can see it slightly went up from 2018 to 2019, a little bit more of an increase in 2020, a huge jump in 2021, and then just kind of a steady increase in 2022, 2023, basically what you would expect in a typical year. If we look at this based on sales percent change, you can see none of these are going negative. They are still appreciating each year. It's just in 2020, we appreciated at around 17 to 18%. And then in 2021, we appreciated right around 27% for the year. Of course, I'm kind of just estimating here based on where that falls. I have the exact numbers somewhere else, but this is where it dropped it on our graph. Now, in 2022, 2023, we are still getting some appreciation in the month of November. It is slightly less than it was in 2018 and 2019, but it is right within that typical range, right around 4%, 5% of year over year appreciation. So right now it's looking pretty steady here in St. George. Now St. George is doing the same thing year to date as Cedar City did. Can't quite make up its mind. It went down a little bit in December and January, then started to climb back in February, March, April, dipped a little bit in May, again in June, went back up in July, dipped a little bit in August, came back up in September, dipped again in October, and it's back up here in November for our highest median sales price of the year. Now, days on market, you can tell here the graph looks a little bit similar to Cedar City's, where 2020 and 2021 are lower for the days on market. It follows a similar pattern, but the days are slightly different. In 2020 and 2021, we're on the market for 9 days. We're on the market for about 16 days, really not very long for those homes to be sitting on the market. Remember, half of those are going for less than that. Now in November 2022 and November 2023, the days on market is sitting longer than they were in 2018 and 2019, which is actually good for us because it starts to get us back to a more stable market here in St. George. As we saw, the St. George home prices went up really pretty quickly, just like Cedar City and everywhere else, but we want those days on market to be a little bit longer, and we want the month's inventory to go up so that it can keep our prices stabilized. Now, as far as absorption rate, this is looking better than it even was even in 2018 and 2019. We're right around 3.5 months supply in 2023 now for St. George. That is slightly down from last year, which was a little bit above 3.5 months supply, but it is sitting way better than it was the 4 years prior to that. So hopefully this will help our median sales price to kind of remain stable here for a while. Again, for St. George, it's still a seller's market, but it gets us closer to those buyers having negotiating powers. All right, let's take a quick look at our listings here. For 2023, our new listings are actually below any of the prior 5 years, even below 2020. Our active listings, they're not quite as low as 2020 and 2021. However, they are lower than 22, 19, and 18, which means we're not quite back up where we need to be to kind of stabilize those prices. And then for pending listings, that is up from 2022. 2022 really had our lowest number of pendings here in St. George, but we are working our way back up here in November. So that is good. It's still showing us that we have a healthy housing market here. There are still buyers in the market and there are still sellers in the market. Prices are just kind of teetering and not having as great appreciation as we saw in 2020 and 2021. Now, as far as sold listings go, these are up from 2022. So this graph looks a little bit different than Cedar City, but sold homes or those closings is down from 21, 2020, 19, and 18. So that does tell us that the number of buyers we have on the market isn't as many as we had before. We're not getting as many closings, and we know why that's happened, but we will jump into that shortly. Now, to the 3 main housing market questions that most people have. The first one people want to know is what's next for mortgage rates. Then they want to know where are home prices headed, and then most people want to know if a recession is around the corner. Let's take a look at the first one. As far as what's next for mortgage rates, obviously none of us can predict that. However, mortgage rates tend to follow behind inflation. If you take a look at this blue line here, and this is a graph done by Keeping Current Matters that I went ahead and shared in here. But if you take a look at the blue line here, this is your inflation line or your CPI. Notice that this green line here, this is your 30-year fixed mortgage. It typically follows inflation. So you can see here in 2021 where that inflation, that blue line, started to really skyrocket there. And it took a little bit later into 2021 and even into 2022 before the Fed started pulling in on those interest rates and starting to push that up. So if we kind of take a look at the US inflation rate, this is for the last 5 years, which is what we're kind of looking at here. You can see the inflation rate was really pretty low in May of 2020. It was like 0.12% or 0.12%. Then we start to see it climb. And in 2021, it was still down low, but then it starts to really increase so that partway through 2021, we're at over 5% inflation rate, kind of stays there for a little bit. And then in 2022, it really starts to skyrocket. At the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. So that's when our inflation really starts to kick in. Well, right around here in February 2022, let's take a look at those mortgage interest rates. So you can see our 30-year mortgage interest rate per Freddie Mac's website. Back in 2021, they were down in the 3%, dipped down into the 2%. Then we get over to the end of 2021, we're into 2022. Now the Feds are starting to play catch up and they're starting to match that 30-year interest rate with the inflation rate. We had a little bit of dip down towards the end of last year in those rates, but then they started to continue to go up this year. And we topped that out really close to 8%. Now we're starting to see a little dip down. That's the hope that it will continue to soften and go down as we watch this inflation go down. We can see the Fed has kind of softened and come back down as it follows this inflation here, but inflation is still right around 3.24%. Now this only goes through the end of October, but they like to see that inflation rate down around 2% per year. Now we really haven't seen that 2% since right in here at the beginning of 2021. So that kind of gives you an idea of what's next for mortgage rates. If we continue to see that inflation going down and they get it under control, then hopefully we will see the Fed start to soften on those interest rates and slowly bring them down. However, I do not see them taking them way down low into the 3s and 2s like we saw for a while there. So we're just going to have to watch that inflation and see if those interest rates will continue to follow that as they have done in the past. Now this goes clear back to 1972. So this has typically been a trend here. Now the next question people usually ask is, where are home prices headed? These are actually forecasts for 2023 and 2024 from well-known sources like Fannie Mae, MBA, and NAR. As an average for all of these for 2024, they have this at about 1.5% appreciation. If we take a look at both Cedar City and St. George, looking what's been happening year to date in the median sales price for both Cedar City and St. George, taking a look at the fact that our absorption rate or our months inventory is pretty comparable to where it was before 2020 and 2021, I would tend to agree with them that we are going to see homes appreciate over the next year, but we won't see them appreciate at the rates that we have seen them appreciate the last few years. And then the last question people are asking is a recession around the corner? Now, I'm not going to pretend to know whether or not a recession is coming. However, I will throw up this slide here from Keeping Current Matters. It was done by the Wall Street Journal Survey of Economists. They did it in October 2022 and again in October 2023. In October 2022, 63% of economists said that we would be going into recession. They actually did the survey with 100 economists. 48% is now saying that there is a recession around the corner. So they are starting to change their tune. Again, none of us know what's going to actually happen because you never know what's going to happen in our world of politics and everything else. But for the data that we have, this is what we're looking at. Another thing that I wanted to note here, just to keep it specific to our market here, is the unemployment rate here for Iron County, Utah, as well as Washington County, Utah. This is for October 2023. That's the most recent data I have here. Iron County, which is where Cedar City is, has a 2.8% unemployment rate. Washington County has a 3.1% unemployment rate. That's where St. George, Utah is. I was able to pull St. George's specifically because they are a larger city. Theirs is at 2.8% as well in unemployment right now. Both of those are lower than the national average of 3.9% unemployment. So for now, our housing market in Cedar City and St. George are looking really pretty good. And I don't currently see any big drops in housing prices. However, there is definitely a softening happening. We are seeing less closings. And so homes will sit on the market a little bit longer and we may see them come down a little bit, but right now it's not looking like a crash. Now, if you're wondering if you should sell right now, we're really looking at those days on market. You saw homes are turning over. We are getting new listings to the market. Homes are pending and homes are closing. What you really want to look at though is how long are they sitting on the market? Right now they're still sitting on the market for a really short amount of time. 30 days on market really isn't that long. It's like a month, and half of those are less than that. So if you are pricing it right, meaning for the location, the age of the home, the condition of the home, how many upgrades you have, then your home is going to sell. But if you are overpricing it, it's likely going to sit on the market longer than that. You're likely going to need to negotiate with buyers. So make sure you're doing this right off the bat. Now, the third thing you're looking at is what really is your goal here? Are you looking to downsize? Are you looking to get into something larger? Do you currently have a low interest rate and you're going to have to take a much higher interest rate? So you kind of need to look at your specific situation here. But if you are looking to sell and you do need to sell, homes are selling if they are priced appropriately here. Now, the last question I'm going to leave you with is, should you buy right now? This is really a personal question. I'm not going to tell anybody they should buy right now because everybody's circumstances are different. First question, do you have a down payment for the house? You're going to need that. Second question, can you afford the monthly payment for the home that you want? And then the third question is, how long do you plan on living there? Does it make sense for you to pay those closing costs right now if you are planning on moving in a year or two? You want to make sure you're going to be in that house for at least 5 years to make it worth it for you. Now, what I will say is our housing market is really pretty steady. It might dip a little bit, but it hasn't been crashing yet. And so far, the data is showing that it's comparable to what it was prior to 2020 and 2021. So if you're waiting for a huge price drop before you buy, I can't say that it's going to be soon. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. That's just what I'm seeing based on the data. So if interest rates are scaring you, don't get a house that your payment is going to be too high. Make sure that you can afford it, but don't let the interest rate scare you away because you never know if they're going higher. And if they go lower, you can always look to refinance that. All right, that wraps up our December 2023 housing market update for Cedar City, Utah and the greater St. George area in southern Utah. If you have a question or a comment and there's something in there that I didn't answer, please go ahead and leave it down below or shoot me an email. I am happy to respond and get you the information that you need. Once again, my name is Elizabeth Prisbrey. I'm with Stratum Real Estate Group. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest here in southern Utah, I really would love to help you out with that. You can find my contact information down below in the description. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you would like it and subscribe. That does help me get the information out to more people. All right, until next time, have a wonderful day.